Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is David Chesney, White Rock City Councilor and editor of the White Rock Sun. David, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be back, Jim. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing great.
Good.
And I wonder how the rest of Canada feels that we have an 11-week federal election campaign facing us, the second longest in history.
Well, radio station, television station, and newspaper publishers are turning cartwheels. 11 weeks of lucre pouring through the front doors. They couldn't be happier.
All that election campaign money.
Yes, indeed.
On the other hand, I was wondering, I know when you go on the bus to follow the leaders, the media outlets have to pay for that. A lot of them just can't afford to do it when it's a regular 6-week campaign, 11 weeks of it. There's going to be maybe 3 reporters from the national networks, and that's it.
Well, as we have talked about in the past, nowadays access is so vetted, and I actually saw something where now, and I don't know, again, I just kind of read the headlines. There's something to the effect that during this campaign, nobody gets near Harper without you being screened. So if they're going to do a photo opportunity in Kamloops, they will grab Mrs. Walker and check her background from top to bottom to ensure that I don't think it's the safety of the Prime Minister. It's just they don't want Mrs. Walker to be standing there with the cameras rolling and all of a sudden have her start beaking off about Bill C-51 or something. So everything is so controlled nowadays. But you know what? We've talked about this before, Jim. I hold tremendous hope. The digital revolution, which you and I are both part of, is growing. I saw something recently over the weekend. There was a news story, a young girl, I don't know what her name was, let's just say it's Cassandra, was appearing at a Starbucks in Vancouver, and they were lined up around the block to talk to her. Now, this is a young girl that has a blog on YouTube and speaks directly to tweens about hairstyles and music and goals and aspirations of tweens, and she is generating so much traffic online now that Starbucks took note of this and said, you know what, we'd like to underwrite your channel, and we'd like to have you come to our outlets and do in-stores, same way as bands used to do in-stores at record stores. So my point is that the digital revolution, I think this is going to be in the next couple of years, is where it really starts to get its traction. So as far as the mainstream media being controlled and strangleholded by the political parties and their interests, I think all bets are going to be off. It's happening more and more. I mean, what was the name of that blogger that blogs out of his garage that Barack Obama turned up a couple of weeks ago, turned up at his garage, I believe, in California, and sat down because he's got, 1.3 million listeners.
Yeah, it's not hard although the city of Philadelphia now has a $400 a year fee if you're a blogger. Now, considering that it doesn't cost the city anything to have somebody broadcast out of a second bedroom or from their living room, I don't understand the purpose of the fee than to perhaps stop people from blogging.
Well, I pay a business license to operate here in White Rock. I have no bricks and mortar business. But because I'm operating in the city of White Rock, if you have a glass repair company and you drive into White Rock to repair a broken glass window in a shop, you need to have a White Rock business license, even if you're from Surrey and you have a business license up there. So it's a way of generating revenue, and obviously I would think the people in Philadelphia have noticed that there are probably maybe 10,000, maybe 15,000 bloggers or websites online that are based out of Philadelphia, and they're going, you know what? I think we can get $300 a year out of each one of these guys.
David, you're thinking like a politician.
Thank you.
With Harper getting back to his censoring of the crowd, that nobody can go see him at a conservative event unless they've been checked out by the Conservative Party, do you think this is a case of the emperor doesn't want anybody to tell him you have no clothes?
Well, I think we all know that he's buck naked, but he doesn't want to have to answer the question, because then it validates what everybody believes. But if you can't get that actual quote out of him saying, yeah, I know I'm naked, what's your problem?
Well, I know how paranoid he is to face questions, because during the Olympics, during which he did not hold one news conference where you could ask him a question. It was all photo opportunities. So he had a photo op. I left my recording equipment outside the room. I came in with just my digital camera, and they still kicked me out on the possibility that I might ask a question. Oh, I said, well, I'm just here to take a picture for the website. No, you're a reporter. You might ask a question. So, of course, my story became the Prime Minister kicked me out because I might ask a question. Is this democracy in action?
Mm-hmm. And you know what? The people that, again, back to, what I said originally about spending a bunch of money for the TransLink vote. Maybe I'm just wishful thinking, but I really do, I think, maybe this is the time that people are more engaged. I don't know. It seems to me, and maybe it's only because I've recently become quote unquote a politician of some sorts here at the civic level by being on White Rock Council. I don't think my radar is up any higher, but I do think people are talking more and more because they're now coming to the realization it's not going to end like they thought it was going to. And I think as a result of that, the middle class, has been virtually wiped out in this country and in America. So the Western world, you're either really rich or you're up against it. And most people are not reticent to outright and out admit to your neighbors that they're up against it. Everybody's trying to put on a front. But the debt load that households are carrying in Canada is staggering. I don't know where this is all going to end, but my point is that I think I don't expect to see a massive engagement, but I'm hoping that we're going to see more people at the polls this year than ever before.
Well, of course, the pre-election polls show the three leaders virtually neck and neck, where, a 2 or 3 point lead doesn't mean much because that's your margin of error. So you could be out by 5%.
But you know what? I hate to appear cynical. The so-called experts told us the same thing with the recent Surrey election, when Diane Watt stepped down back in November. Oh, it was a three-way horse race. It was neck and neck. Hang on, sit on the edge of your seat, ladies and gentlemen. They're coming to the post, and it's Linda Epner by a mile. So I'm suspect of media at all levels now, and these so-called experts and their stats and figures. They want us to believe that it's a neck and neck. It's a horse race. It's anybody's race. I think right now probably the true facts are is that Harper's got a substantial lead.
Well, it doesn't hurt that the 31 new ridings they created to account for Canada's population growth, all of them were plopped in the middle of conservative ridings. What a coincidence.
Exactly. And here in the South Surrey White Rock riding, long-time conservative riding, we have the aforementioned Diane Watt is going to run. She can mail that one in. I'm sorry. I wish the other candidates all the luck in the world, and I hope they run a tremendous race, and I hope that they can crack that barrier. But boy, this is what the Conservatives have done across the country. We don't vote for the Prime Minister. We vote for our local riding, and as a result of that, the Diane Watts syndrome has happened right across the country. You're right. The new ridings they've created, and where they felt that they have had some problems or some people have left, they've gone out and got certified 5-star candidates that they feel will be able to bring that seat home.
I wonder if Diane will find herself, if she's elected, disappointed. I know she said, I'll be a strong voice for Surrey, which is a very large growing community south of Vancouver, will be the biggest province or biggest city in the province of BC within a few years. But Harper does not like to hear any voices of discontent or who want to bring up anything new, I think. She may be grossly disappointed with the lack of influence she has if she goes to Ottawa.
Well, I think she's going to go to Ottawa, and my bet is they've already promised her a ministerial portfolio. That's my guess.
And I know how long is Harper going to last as leader, because she's a very personable person, and her record as mayor, when she said, I'm going to do this, she did it. And, to find politicians who follow up on their promises as well as she has, that's a rare thing, isn't it?
Well, you can cast stones all day at Diane Watts, but I'll tell you one thing, from sitting here and watching her, she did a tremendous job of, in large part, reinventing Surrey. There is still the Surrey jokes, and there probably will be, because most every major city in this country, and perhaps in the U.S. as well, has a working class suburb where the Surrey jokes or the Scarborough jokes originate from. But she did a great job of reinventing Surrey, and putting it back onto a path of, prosperity, and there's been a lot of growth, a lot of development. Some people have been very upset with some of the decisions she made. She removed a lot of trees for that growth, and it's always amazing how politicians' eyesight becomes really good as they're leaving office, because she said, oh, we're losing the canopy, the tree canopy. Heavens to Betsy, the national average is 27% and we're at 18%. It's like, well, Diane, there wasn't very many streets that I drove down in the last 10 years that I didn't go, oh my God, look at all the trees they took down there to build yet another subdivision. So you can't have it both ways. But I think you're right. The media love Diane because she's always been, she worked the media very well. I've watched her work it, and I don't think she's insincere. But she knows how what I refer to as how to feed the baby. If somebody handed me a baby and said, here, give this baby a bottle, I don't know that I'd be able to do it. I don't have any experience. Whereas someone else would take it, cradle it in their arm as comfortable as could be, put that bottle in the baby, it'd calm right down. Diane Watts knows how to feed the baby. She knows how to work the media probably better than any politician I've seen.
I'll have more with David Chesney right after this.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with David Chesney. David, if we're going to take a look at the federal election, let's rate the three leaders that people follow. What I noticed on Facebook, a lot of people getting selfies with Justin Trudeau, and I didn't notice anybody getting selfies with either Harper or Mulcair.
No, that's very true. I was talking to somebody about this last night. Having worked for a multinational corporation, CBS Records, Vancouver, or the market of British Columbia, accounts for about 10 to 12% of whatever. However many records are sold, however many votes are going to come in a federal election, et cetera, et cetera. So my point that I'm getting at is I think Mulcair is going to try to win this election in Ontario and Quebec. And to Justin Trudeau, he has some kind of, connection with the West Coast, having lived here when he taught at the Jericho School. Maybe there's a great sense of comfort. Maybe he keeps diving in and out of here to recharge his batteries, and maybe this is an area where he feels he has more support than other areas. I'm not sure. Point is I don't think we're going to see a lot of campaigning out west. It's going to be one in Ontario and Quebec. It always is. It always will be. The numbers simply dictate it. So if I was in their position, I would probably be doing exactly the same thing.
Well, Mulcair is from Quebec, and people are saying the big success for the NDP was all the votes they got in Quebec. Jack Layton was very popular there, but Mulcair is a native Quebecer, and he appears to have a very strong connection there and will probably retain those NDP seats and perhaps even gain more.
It's quite possible. I haven't really been able to get a handle on Mulcair, to be very truthful. I don't know a lot about the man. I saw something floating around. There was a lot made of in the press a few weeks back, or a month or so back, about the fact that, I don't know, in 2005 or whenever it was, he was actually courted by the Conservative Party to come and work for them. I don't know whether he was a strategist or a spin doctor or whatever it was. But they were basically saying, you know what, 5-10 years ago, this guy was ready to get in bed with the Conservatives, and now you think that he's an opponent of them. And the story that, at least from what I was able to glean out of it, was that basically the only reason he didn't take the job with the Conservatives is they weren't willing to pay him enough money.
Well, it sounds like he's a capitalist. Maybe that's the kind of person the NDP needs, is to have somebody who's closer to the center. In fact, we find that the Liberal policies are pretty muddy simply because they supported Bill C-51, which any proponent of free speech or freedom at all is against. And I've seen NDP protesters show up at Liberal events saying, you voted against personal freedom, so we can't support your vote. But on the other hand, will the left side split the vote and allow Conservative candidates to win for that reason, just like what happened in Alberta?
Yeah. There's always that distinct possibility, and I don't know how we prevent against that.
Well, one way would have been to have the two opposition parties say, well, we've got a very strong candidate in that riding. We'll withdraw the weaker candidate. So they're up against the Conservative. So they have a better chance of winning. And then you have a coalition, of course, that happens in the end of it. But we have two leaders that seem to be very much against working with each other. I don't think Mulcair and Trudeau like each other at all.
Yeah, see, again, not having television, I don't get to see a lot of that. I just kind of get the screened out information that finally makes it down to the web, in the big bite size. But I don't know whether I don't know how those two, but I do know that they have said that, I think it seems to me that they have said that they might be interested in looking at a coalition, but that wouldn't happen until after the election, and what you're advocating would have to happen before the election, which I don't ever see that ever happening.
Well, I saw, in BC is the classic case, though, of really the Socreds should have called themselves the anybody but the NDP party, because they had an informal coalition, I guess, but Conservatives, Liberals, it didn't matter what their stripe was, as long as they weren't NDP, they were welcome.
Yeah. And
again, too, Canada might be lucky that we have basically a three-party system, although Elizabeth May is trying to make inroads for the Greens.
But again, yeah, and I have a lot of respect for Elizabeth May and the Green Party. In the past I have voted for the Green Party, and I've watched their numbers almost double every year. This is too important an election, and I don't want to say that voting for the Green Party would be a waste of your vote, but I think you'd have to almost take a look at it that way. The Greens are never going to knock off the Conservatives. And if there is ever a time, I think in my mind, that the Conservatives have to be taken down, it's now.
Is it a matter of when a government's been in power for a long time, they just become so arrogant and out of touch with the people?
I think the Conservatives generally were arrogant from the word get-go. I don't know that they ever really engaged the public to any extent. I think it's just now become more profound as during this third term, but I don't think that it was ever. I don't think they changed that much. But now the clampdown has really happened.
And I noticed Harper went up in the polls the day after the first of the child support checks went out. And of course, people may not realize when I noticed the ad say you get this check no matter what your income is, but Canada Revenue sure pays attention to what your income is, and at tax time, a lot of people who receive those checks are going to get a bill for $2,000.
Yes. Yeah.
And they may not even be aware of it. And again, this is the most cynical, dirty kind of thing where you buy votes with the voters' own money, and in this case, for probably 2/3 of them, you're going to claw it all away, or most of it.
And that won't happen until after the election.
After the election.
And you're right, most people are not paying attention. It's, to take everything full circle here in White Rock, with our development and the violation, what I would classify as the violation of our official community plan, and the giant game of whack-a-mole of high-rises, projected high-rises popping up everywhere where they're not supposed to be, people generally don't care until somebody blocks their view. Then it's, oh my God, somebody should do something about this. It's, it's the classic not in my backyard. And nothing pains me worse when I encounter that. It's just, I guess that's human nature. But it better stop being human nature. Because by the time they start building and taking your view away, I got news for you. It's way too late. What is the old adage? What will you do when they come for you? As other people's rights are stripped away and you didn't pay any attention? and their freedoms were taken away. This is, maybe making it too much of or blowing it out of proportion a little bit for some people. But the laziness of people absolutely blows my mind until it's too late, and then everybody's just screaming about somebody should help us, somebody should do something. Too late.
I was going to say too, with an 11-week campaign, that leaves lots of room for something to blow up somewhere, somehow, figuratively, not literally.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And for that reason, that's why the clampdown, as the Clash would say, has really come with the Conservatives. We cannot afford one misstep. All we have to do is look back at the debate with Gordon Wilson, when the provincial, for premiers between, was it Rita Johnson and Mike Harcourt? And when, Gordon Wilson just sort of said, see, now you understand why nothing gets done in British Columbia? That soundbite almost got him elected premier.
Yes, but Mr. Harper will not take part in the television debates, only magazines and newspapers. I guess with you being a newspaper guy, you see that's the perfect format?
Well, again, everything can be, and he will, what he's saying is you send me the questions, and I get time to research them and answer them correctly. Television and radio are a complete different matter. You know that as well as anybody. It's live. We're going to air right now. We can't claw it back. It's out there now. It will take on a life of its own. It will never, ever go away.
David, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Jim, it's always a pleasure, and happy BC Day, which is the day that you and I had the opportunity to speak, and we'll probably be talking to you in September, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the summer.
You too. My guest has been David Chesney, White Rock, BC City Councilor and editor of the WhiteRockSun.com. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Check out our popular YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be sent to info@housestreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.